Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our journey into Earth mysteries and the ancient wisdom of sacred science. I'm your host, Faye Semple, and today we're diving into the summer solstice, the pinnacle of the year, the celebration of light and life. And this is a time when our ancestors aligned their sacred sites like Stonehenge and Newgrange to capture the sun's energy. But it's not just about stones. It's about how the light of the solstice interacts with our brains, our biology, and even our quantum connection to the cosmos. If you're into earth energies, the Celtic wheel, or the lost technology of our ancestors, stick with me for the next 10 minutes. So the summer solstice is around the 20th or the 21st of June in the Northern Hemisphere, is when the sun reaches its highest point in the sky, giving us the longest day of the year. Now, for our ancestors, this was a sacred moment, a celebration of light, life, and the earth's abundance. The Celtic wheel, which is a spiritual calendar which marks the movement of the sun, marks this as a time of joy, fertility, and connection with the divine. But what's incredible is how ancient cultures built sacred sites to align perfectly with this moment. So take Stonehenge at the summer solstice, the sun's rays beam through the heel stone, illuminating the heart of the circle. Of course, it also has the corresponding and probably more important winter solstice alignment. At Newgrange in Ireland, the solstice light pierces a narrow passage to light up a chamber deep within. It's absolutely stunning if you ever get a chance to get in there. I did many, many years ago as a child, left a huge lasting impression on me. Now, these aren't random designs. They're precise, showing us how our ancestors understood the technology of light and its power. Astronomical alignments and how we project that in what are called orthographic projections on the ground require an intimate knowledge of not just the heavens, but also your landscape, how to capture that light when there might be hills and all sorts of things in the way. So these alignments aren't just symbols, they were engineered to harness the sun's energy, amplifying the site's connection to the Earth's ley lines or telluric currents, if you want to call them that, probably more appropriately. And these are energetic highways that I talk about a lot in Earth energy work and geomancy. So the solstice was a moment to gather, celebrate, and tap into the Earth's vibrant pulse, the Mother Earth that supports us as we move through this vast cosmos, this universal mind. So why is the summer solstice such a big deal? Well, it really is the peak of light and life. We are warm, we are dry, we are fed, everything's looking good. The sun is at its strongest, it's fueling growth, it's warming the earth, and it's sparkling. Really, it's joyous. Now, for the Celts and other ancient cultures, this was a time of festivals, bonfires, dancing, and rituals to honour the life-giving power of the sun. So it's no wonder that the Celtic wheel places such a high point, really, or one of these critical moments on the wheel to celebrate abundance and community. We're in the full light half of the year. The masculine principle is dominant as opposed to the midwinter, where we're in the full feminine energy. The darkness, we're in the womb. That's all about introspection. The summer solstice is all about our action taking, being out there in the world and living. But there's much more to it than that, actually. Our ancestors knew something that we're only now rediscovering, that light doesn't just nourish plants or warm the earth, it interacts with us on a profound spiritual level. They built these sacred sites not just to mark the solstice, but to create spaces where light, sound, and human energy can converge. So think of Stonehenge or other sacred sites as a giant amplifier, blending the actual sun's rays, the biophotons, with chanting, drumming, and the Earth's own vibration, its electromagnetic pulses, its sound pulses. This wasn't just a party and a celebration. It was a way to connect with the cosmos, to recharge our spiritual batteries. Now let's get to the mind-blowing part. How the light of the summer solstice affects us on a biological and even quantum level. Now, modern science is just catching up to what I believe our ancestors knew intuitively. When sunlight, especially the intense light of the solstice, enters our eyes, it does more than just help us see. It carries biophotons, they're tiny little packets of light energy that actually enter our brain and they interact with the brain's chemistry. So this is how it works. Light enters your eyes and hits the retina, which sends a signal to the brain's pineal gland and the hypothalamus. And these areas regulate things like serotonin and melatonin, sleepy, wakey moods. These chemicals control your mood, your energy, and your sleep. But it goes much deeper than that. Biophotons are these quantum particles of light, and they can influence cellular processes in ways that we're only just beginning to understand. In quantum biology, researchers have found that light can affect how our cells communicate with each other, even at the DNA level. So light is in our bodies, and it's one of the mechanisms of communication, just like quantum water is just one of the mechanisms of communication in our body. So at sacred sites during the solstice, this effect is amplified. The alignment of the stones, the earth's energy field, being engaged in sacred practices like drumming, chanting, singing, dancing, and the focus light, these create a kind of quantum resonance. I say our ancestors, without all the modern interference, the hustle and bustle of the built-up environment, the drone of traffic, the noise of aeroplanes, Wi-Fi, whatever else, our ancestors probably felt this heightened sense of connection and clarity and spiritual awakening. So by standing in these places bathed in solstice light, they were tuning their bodies to the earth and the cosmos, using, I say, a technology that we're only just now beginning to rediscover. So, what can you learn from this? Well, the summer solstice is your chance to connect with this ancient wisdom, visit a sacred site, or even create your own sacred space in your garden. It can be as simple as draw a circle on the ground, form, shape, sacred geometry makes form. You will create an energetic structure just by drawing the circle. Stand in that sunlight, feel the earth beneath you and let the light work its magic. You don't need fancy tools. You just need to be there with your eyes open, with just some intention about what you're doing and some awareness. You could try chanting or meditating, dancing around your circle, beating a drum. But notice how the light feels, how it shifts your energy. You're tapping into the same organic technology that our ancestors used, not machines, but the natural interplay of the light, the earth, and human consciousness. And by aligning with these key days of the Celtic wheel, of how we move through the moments of, like now the heightened summer, then we're going to move into the harvest of our actions. We'll begin to see the fruits of our labour. Then we'll get the full fruits of our labour at the last harvest. Then we move into decline, decay, and we enter the dark night of the soul in the winter, the sort of small death, as we're reborn again in the early spring. And then we start to grow and blossom and mature. And then we come to this peak moment of the summer again. We move around this wheel. We move around the wheel. We keep going around in that circle, but actually we're spiraling through time. So it's repeat and evolve, repeat and evolve. So the more we can repeat these exercises at sacred sites, the more we can evolve. So the summer solstice is more than just a day. It's a celebration of light, life, and our quantum connection to the earth and the cosmos. And by understanding sacred site alignments and the power of biophotons, these tiny packets of quantum light, we can begin to reclaim the lost technology of our ancestors. So get out there in the solstice, feel the light, do some dancing. Don't blind yourself, but watch that sunset if you can. And, let it awaken your spirit. If you've liked this episode, hit the like and like and subscribe, and share your solstice plans in the comments. And let's keep exploring these earth mysteries together. And I will see you next time.